Welcome to Ladies-in-Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kellye Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success.
Hi, welcome to Ladies-in-Law. I'm Kellye. As always, I am joined by Lisa and Dawn, and today we've got an amazing guest. She is an interior designer extraordinaire, Stephané Boston. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Wow, extraordinaire.
Yes.
That is an intro.
Well, I have had the pleasure of working with Stephané, and she helped finish out the design on my house. And so when I think about women that have started their own companies and work with lawyers, she's also married to a lawyer, so she's got several. She's got several different ends that I think are going to be really fun to talk about as it relates to this podcast. So thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I've never done anything like this, so forgive the nerves, but this is really cool what you guys have going on here.
Yes, we're always nervous every time we're here. So I want to start because right before we started filming, Stephané said, just FYI, I'm a designer, not a decorator. And I knew she was a designer, but I didn't even know there was a difference between being a designer and a decorator. So tell us, let's start there. What is the difference?
Let us start where it really matters. Okay. Speaking to the fans out there, I want you to be educated buyers, okay? So there is a big difference between an interior designer and an interior decorator. So like any other profession, you have people who are the licensed professional, like an engineer, like a lawyer, and then you have people who represent more of like the supportive staff, like a paralegal or something like that. So for us as interior designers, similar to architects, we are held to a standard that is not only has to do with the technical side of design, but also has to do with the life safety, the health and welfare of our clients and our end users. So for anyone out there looking to hire a designer, you should definitely ask if that person has a formal background in design or architecture, and also is someone who has a license or certification. There's a whole process that you can go through in our industry. And then also, just to kind of clarify, someone who decorates doesn't necessarily need to have that type of education or background. They can just be someone who's interested and has a great eye for color or textures. So that might be someone that'd be worth bringing in to style your home or to help you with picking out furniture. I definitely don't want to poo-poo decorators, but I want to be clear because what I do as a professional is a professional service. And unfortunately, sometimes people hire decorators to do home renos where they're knocking down walls and changing things. And I get a little nervous because if something goes wrong, unfortunately, that person may not have the formal education to understand the process or to be liable. We're held to a professional standard. We can get, people can grieve us as well in terms of the law terms. Just like they can grieve y'all's licenses, they can grieve us because we are actually, part of an association. So
that, it makes sense because I didn't know this until I worked with a designer, but there is a very technical element to design. It's not just being creative and having a great eye, which I think certainly, somebody in that field has to have, but there's very technical aspects of it. Like the chair is going to be like a certain number of inches from the couch, things like that.
I'm out. Get me out of that part.
Listen, that's why you hire the professionals to do what they do. So that's great. Okay. So tell us, you've owned your own firm now for 2.5 years?
Just under 2 years.
Okay, great. So almost
as of
2
today.
years. Yeah.
No, not literally today. Just mean like today's date. We actually started our firm in fall of 2022.
Cool.
So it'll be 2 years.
Tell us what you were working at another design firm. Tell us kind of what prompted you to make that shift to go out on your own.
Yes, we actually talked about this. I'm not going to spill all the tea, you guys, but there's a little bit of tea. And for those watching and don't know what tea is, that just is the gossip. So I have worked at several different firms. I was actually working for a developer here in Dallas who will remain nameless because they're a big dog. But I did not feel like the direction of my career and what I wanted to do was really fulfilling and life-giving for me. I think that they do a lot of beautiful projects. And for me, the focus of the projects, like the type of work that we were doing, was something that I wasn't that interested in. And, fast forwarding over a lot of like crazy things that happened, but it felt like my heart was moving away from working for someone. And in an industry like mine, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of female leadership, and you definitely don't have a lot of women of color as leaders. So
that's hard, right?
It can be difficult.
Yeah.
And I think it's rare to see, particularly on the architectural side, it's rare to see female principals. They almost certainly are always on the interior design side, even though there's a lot of brilliant female architects out there. They just don't get the representation.
Not as much in leadership roles.
Exactly.
Why do you
I
think
feel like
that,
that's the same in the law too, right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
I know from my own observations of working with amazing architects, which, by the way, Ariana Shaw is the architect who works with me, and she is truly talented, and I get so excited to watch her work and watch her grow in this space as our principal architect at Bishop and Ivy. But
so important to have good team around you.
But I mean, watching her journey as not only her friend but her colleague for many years, it was like she kept asking for more opportunities. She kept asking for more ways to grow in leadership. She kept asking for, other opportunities that she could grow as a leader, and she kept getting told no.
Was that at the same company that you were at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's part of the tea.
Tea alert. No, just kidding. If you know, you know. Okay, if you know, you know. But no, but I've seen, she wasn't the only one, unfortunately. And I've worked with enough female architects over the years that have just been stunted for one reason or another. And even though they're excellent in their work, a lot of times someone who was a very mid, as the kids say, male,
I don't know what
like
mid
is very mediocre.
Average.
Average.
Oh, you know
New
that.
lingo.
Yeah.
I love the new lingo. I'm going to start using mid.
But I feel like there was a lot of average male architects who were oftentimes promoted above these women who, again, showed time after time after time after time that they're not only capable, but they're also, some of them are moms, and they have kids, and they have all these deadlines and other responsibilities
Balancing
that they're doing.
act.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they're still outperforming their peers, yet they're not getting the same opportunities. So for me, it was kind of like, I'm over this. I'm over working with people who don't recognize other people's talents or skill sets. And I was like, okay, we're gonna start now. First thing I did was open an LLC, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. All this law stuff is like very, very frightening for creatives like me. And we were just like, what are we doing? I don't even know what we're supposed to do. Like, we're just gonna start, getting all this paperwork together and opening up a bank account and, whatever the steps
Sort
that
of
we
the
needed to
business
take.
side of-
Yeah.
So your husband's a lawyer, though. Did he help
Yes.
you? Did he help you kind of at least get started?
This is where it got really tricky because he and I have a very honest and loving relationship. And so that honesty was not what I wanted in that moment.
A little too honest. Shout out to Grant Boston,
hilarious.
fabulous trial lawyer.
He's
and-
amazing.
And Stephanie is his better half. For
Oh,
sure.
you know what? He's my better half in so many ways. He is the person that if I'm getting ready to jump off a cliff with no safety net on, he's gonna grab me. And
I thought you were going to
explain
say he
me-
jumps with you.
No.
Gonna be like, hang on a second.
Yeah. But I think the reality of it is that I just wanted it to be rainbows and butterflies. I just wanted to have a dream, and I'm going to create and do all these really cool things and, forget all the realities that exist in the world. And I think Grant was just like, hey, this is what you have to do. This is all the risks involved, which I think good attorneys can assess risk really well. And I did not want to hear that.
No,
I wanted to hear
hard.
You are amazing, honey, and you should just do whatever. And he did do that, but he also was a good partner to me and told me the truth. And in that process, we realized, okay, I'm going to hire another attorney to handle.
Smart. That's
all
smart,
our
honestly.
stuff.
That is
Yes.
so smart.
And so our attorney was amazing, and he pulled everything together. And I think that was probably for the best in my marriage, because I needed someone to tell me the honest truth without the relationship, the emotional
Right.
relationship.
You hire an attorney to tell you the business things that you
Yes.
need to know. You don't necessarily want your spouse
Exactly.
to be like,
Because if he tells me, babe, you need to make sure your contracts cover this, this, and this, I'm going to be like, well, you didn't do the dishes yesterday. So why are you telling me about that? I don't care. Like, put the dishes away. So, but
funny.
he's actually really good at putting the dishes away. Sorry, honey, but you are.
Well, it is. It's something that I think it just resonates with so many people that start their own firm. There's a reason why you're kind of pushed to do that sometimes. A lot of times you kind of feel like I've got no choice. I just need to start my own thing. And then I think the flip side of that is you don't, I mean, I sort of like anticipated like, oh crap, I'm not going to be any good at this. And I'm worried about that. But I think more people are like, this is great. And it's so exciting. And then you like run into the speed bumps and you're like, oh gosh, okay, wait, we've got to try and figure out some things that are outside of the skill set that you are centering your business around, right?
Absolutely. I feel like I've had a lot of like existential conversations with myself, especially in probably the past like year and a half, as we've began to like start to strategically grow our business. When we first started, it was really just about, okay, we've got like some pretty cool clients and we're just going to get out there and do our thing. And it was great. And then you're like, okay, year one, we got it down. I think we kind of know what we're doing. Year two, we're going into it like, okay, let's grow. I've been telling my team, like, let's prepare for our success. So with that,
so what does that look like? Yeah, tell us what that looks like.
So with that preparation, it's about thinking, what's the next level? I have a lovely marketing consultant, Jeremy Dorn. Shout out to him. Appreciate you, bruh. He is the literal guiding light to get us on track to where I want to go. And a lot of those things are very achievable. Some of that is being in D Magazine, being in AD, Architectural Digest.
Thank you. We need it. We do need it. Probably need some cliff notes here and there for some of the design terms.
But it's not just about, okay, how do we operate as a firm? It's also about how do we get the projects? How do we get invited to bid on high profile projects? And I think the goal of my firm is never to be like a big, like a Gensler or, some of these other really large companies that are multinational. I literally have like a team that is 3 people right now. I think I would love to have a team of 6 total. All the people that I want on my team are experts in their field. And it can be different strengths and weaknesses, but everybody brings such a high level of creativity, execution, et cetera, that I feel like if I have a team of my 6, my starting 6, then we can literally do any project. We can do the smallest to the, $100 million or the White House or something, which is not what I'm trying to do. But
I have a question about that. So we've talked a couple of times about how to find those A players, those pieces that just fit perfectly together. It sounds like you've got a great team. How have you gone about really picking those people?
That's a great question. I think the biggest asset that I have is relationships in the industry. If I could hire every single one of my friends from the industry, and you know who you are, You know who you are. If you know, you know. I would hire everyone because for the people that I think are excellent, they already know that I've asked them, would you be willing to work with me? Even if it's not in a full-time position right now, because for me, those people have proven their excellence in different situations that you can't teach that to somebody. It's just, for me, I've been able to observe it. And that's how I know that there are tons of female architects out there who are not represented well in leadership, because I've seen the leadership qualities that I want to see in a lot of my colleagues and people I've worked with over the years. So for me, if the sky was the limit and you didn't have to worry about money or anything like payroll, I would literally have like a team of like 12 people right now of people in the industry that I've known over the last like 10 plus years, because they're all gifted.
Well, and I think it's so important for business owners, especially when you're starting out, to realize that you cannot do it all, right? It's really hard to think, okay, well, and starting out, sometimes you have to be very mindful of your costs, and you have to make an effort to keep costs down. And so you think, okay, I'm going to handle the marketing, or I'm going to handle, certain things that that either you don't have the experience or the expertise to do. But if you are able to hire people to help you recognize your strengths, that way you can focus on what you're good at, right? Mm-hmm. And then hire people around you to do the things that you aren't as great at. Sure.
I think we are in a good way, in the best possible way. We're hitting this slight dilemma where I'm doing less and less designing and more like administrative and business related stuff,
and that falls in line with the question that I had, because you said the previous firm, you'd gotten into a place where it just wasn't as fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And so then you leave, you start your own firm. Are you doing more fulfilling? Well, maybe the first year, and then now because of the growth plan, is that what's pulling you into the management portion of the job?
I think I didn't realize when I first started this that there was so much more of the business side, that working for a firm, especially a large firm, it's like working for a big corporation. You have an accounting department, you have this department, that department. So everyone else handles all the other noise.
You go out on your own, you're like every department, all rolled
it's me.
It's me. Yeah. You're like, the invoicing, the billing, shoot.
Yeah. Do you love that part of it though? I mean, what do you think? Are you pulled a little bit?
How do you feel? Accounting. I hate it.
Girl. The number thing is not my thing.
No. I hate it. I am really, really good at pricing models for projects. I hate accounting though. Accounts receivable, accounts payable, like you can literally miss me with that, meaning someone else can do it. And I thankfully have someone that is great, again, someone I know personally. So that relationship is helpful because she understands the business. But I do not like all the hats that I have to wear. I would love to just be a designer and just live free and not have to worry about all that other stuff. But I can't do that as the leader. And so I've definitely had a lot of learning that I've had to do, especially on the accounting side. It's the thing I hate the most. And it's the thing that took me the longest to understand, because I cannot perform well without understanding the, financial health of our business.
It's arguably it's important to love what you're doing and to be happy, but the accounting side of it is important, right? Yeah. I realized that I needed to finally hire some support staff when I had invoices that just hadn't been sent out because I was too busy doing the consulting thing. Right. And I'm like, crap, I'm not doing the bookkeeping and I'm not sending out invoices, and I need to get paid, right? And you don't get paid if you don't send out invoices. I kind of learned the hard way, right? And so I was like, okay, I don't have time to do this. I need to hire somebody to help me do this.
Absolutely. And I think I also asked questions of other people, other more experienced designers than myself. Particularly in the first year, shout out to Bethany Lewis, because she is an amazing designer here in Dallas. She is so experienced, so skilled. She literally can do any type of design. And she had her own firm at one point and then decided to go back to the corporate setting. And so I just started picking her brain, and I was like, Bethany, please tell me what I need to do, because that mentorship that she provided for me was really, really critical. And I think having, walking through those experiences for her, she started her firm during the 2009, 2008 financial crash. So it was out of necessity that she did that. So there was a lot of hard lessons that she had to learn. And I wanted to just kind of skip over those hard lessons and just try to get as much information as possible. And I still think there's a lot of like mentorship that I'm trying to get from other experienced designers. We are the type of firm that nobody's too experienced or too old to learn something new. I think we always want to better ourselves by education. And so I'm okay with being the type of leader that humbly asks for help because I have a lot of areas that I need to grow in.
Yeah. Well, I think that's half the battle, is like recognizing that you do. That's what I love about jury consulting, is that every day I am learning something new. I will never, and I would be very weary of any lawyer or consultant or professional that says I already know everything there is to know and I've like maxed out, and not being able to grow and continue to push yourself. I think it does your business and yourself a real disservice.
What I want to know, what's the scariest thing? Kind of taking that leap. You hired a lawyer, you formed your company. There had to have been something that you came up against that just terrified you. And what was it, and how did you pivot?
Well, there's two things that happened, and they happened at completely different times. The first thing that happened was the first January of 2023. I was full time, and nobody was calling. Nobody was,
And you're like, shoot, there's no paycheck coming in.
Yeah.
Nobody's calling.
And I again, trying to network, trying to get out there. I had talked to other firm owners. There are a lot of female designers out there who are really dedicated to helping each other. And so
I love that.
Yeah. And so I had talked to the owner of Nuance Interiors. She's amazing. Shout out to you, girl. You should look her up if y'all are watching, because she also does amazing work. But so we sat down and talked, and she was like, yeah, when I left, I had like a list of clients and a couple projects. And so she kind of had a little bit more on her plate when she first started Nuance. And so I was like, oh no, I did not do that. I had one really huge residential project that I was working on. I mean, 5,000 square feet is a lot, and it was a new construction. So that was the main focus for me. But after a certain point in the project, you're kind of like, okay, just twiddling my thumbs here, hoping that something comes up. And it was probably a good 6 weeks of just getting out there, just networking, doing all types of business development. And finally, I picked up another commercial client, and I was like, oh, thank you.
What would you say was in your mind, like if you had to narrow it to one thing, what has been sort of the biggest business development aspect thing that has helped you really grow? And
Sure. I think one of the biggest things that I've had to learn is to not treat this like a hobby, to treat it like a business. I had to get schooled by a younger designer who is out here kind of giving these talks, classes, whatever you want to call them. And I remember talking to several of my other design friends, and I was like, I had a Gen Z tell me that I was not treating my business like a business. I was treating my
that's
business.
very humbling.
Oh my gosh. And I think that there was so much truth behind what she was saying and the process that she has in place. And I, as much as I want to fight the systems and all that stuff, there has to be a process. Otherwise, you can't be efficient or successful in your projects. And so I had to really think about what are the key values that I bring. And I think the reality of it is that, yes, I provide a luxury service just across the board.
Sure.
And understanding that as much as I have a bleeding heart and want to just do everything for the community and help the community, I can't do that if my business is not making money. And so understanding that there might be different categories for different clientele. So if you need, a certain high level luxury white glove service, we can provide that for you. And we can do that at a price that is competitive. But also, we have to make sure if we're providing something that's a little more economical, a little more, still luxury, but maybe not giving the full white glove experience, we can provide that as well. We just may not do a lot more in-person stuff or a lot more time spent with the clients. And so I think separating that and understanding when we go out, when we meet people, when we, network and all of that, knowing what kind of services we provide and knowing that we can help people understand, well, what do you need and how can we help? And then if we're not the right ones, here, we have a list of people that you can talk to. But
well, that just made me think of this conversation we had a week or so ago. And it was really about valuing yourself and your business because and so it's interesting to hear you say, there are kind of different levels for different clientele, because when I first started, I was, and I think I probably still am, like really affordable in terms of jury consulting, right? Jury consulting is a luxury for lawyers. Not every case can merit hiring a consultant. And so I felt like I was kind of getting in. I was definitely on the lower end of the spectrum, and smaller cases could afford to hire me. But, 10 years later, it's like, okay, I'm working on bigger cases. I'm working really hard. Let me try to figure out how to kind of value that time. And we specifically talked about if your prices aren't competitive, some folks look at that and say, well, you're probably not as good as the people that are charging more. So how did you what do you wrestle with when it comes to really kind of valuing your time and knowing your worth?
I think the biggest thing is that when I started the firm, there was a couple of things that were really important expenses that I thought were critical and some that weren't. I do not think in 2024, everyone needs to work in an office. I have worked at places where working in an office is required, and with that comes a lot of expenses. And I'm sure you guys know, especially with running firms, it's expensive. Dallas real estate is expensive. And so for my team, we are fully remote. And that cost efficiency or being able to work from home actually becomes a thing that we don't have to bill back to our clients. So that in itself is just one big thing that we decided we're just not going to do that. And if we need to have a space eventually, there's ways for us to, rent out spaces sometimes or, temporarily. There's so many co-working spaces now that it doesn't make sense to have an office and pay for the light bills and the HVAC.
And it's acceptable.
And it's totally acceptable.
Totally acceptable. People 1,000%. Aren't taken by surprise if you are working fully remote.
Exactly.
I opened my second court reporting firm in 2019, and we are fully remote. And that was a little bit to sell.
Sure.
Talking to clients like, where's your office? Well, we do the production in Boston.
Right.
Right. So I can appreciate that.
Well, and a lot of times we make it fun for our clients. I gave a design presentation yesterday at a showroom, and our clients were like, wow, this is amazing.
Fun, yeah.
And it was really easy for them to see the product. Often the showrooms really want you to come in because they love to show off their stuff. They love to host. It's literally just the sales teams of, the design industry. They love to have people around. So I can sell that to a client very easily. And then I also know I can pull favors from other clients for corporate clients because I've done their spaces, AKA Grant Boston.
I was just going to say, you just designed a beautiful new law firm, Kellye Boston. Tell us about designing a space for lawyers and what was important as you're thinking about your clients as lawyers and how you wanted their space to function.
And also, I really want to know about working with your husband.
Oh. Yeah.
I want to know how that was designing for him.
He is a riot and a half. And he won't mind me saying this because he sent it from his actual like firm email, but he sent this email to me just recently that was like, I just keep thinking about you. I just think you're so beautiful. I think I'm in love with you. And I was like, I just texted him and I was
you
like,
must have designed a damn good office.
oh my goodness. I was like, I think I was having like, we must have had like a bad morning or something. I was like, he's trying to suck up right now. But yeah,
let's let him suck up.
Right. But you know, he's, other than being just like completely silly and, you know, funny like that, we actually had a really, really good experience with him and Ray Kerala. So, and it actually turned into other projects. But yeah, when we actually started this process, when Ray and Grant were looking at starting their own firm, I really just wanted to be a support. I know this was a big deal for them, and I wanted to be able to give something of my time and my energy. And honestly, I love corporate design. That's actually where I really found my roots in kind of like design, I don't know, aesthetic, was doing corporate offices early in my career.
And they can be so good now.
Oh,
I feel like a lot of law firms, sometimes you walk into them and you're like, you still have your old law books that you don't even look at anymore. No. And it's the kind of drab and dark wood. And it's kind of blah.
Oh, yeah. And so when we designed Kellye Boston law firm, PLLC. I don't know what
I don't think you have to say that.
PLLC. That's right. My inspiration really came from the hospitality industry. So when you walk into their space, there is a beautiful red velvet, like kind of organically shaped sofa when you first walk in, with this cool chandelier that's brass with all these like cool bulbs, and it's just a cool vibe. And
it's like a place you want to spend time in. That's got to be good for future clients, right?
And I think it confuses the people on their floor, because they're like, what kind of office is this?
Right. That's,
you know, we have...
What's that red couch?
Yeah, it's got like a sexy vibe to it. Like, what is that about? But I definitely pulled from the hospitality side of things, thinking about just a really awesome hotel lobby, like a W or a Virgin hotel, giving a little bit more of a playfulness while still being sophisticated. So there's lots of fun pops of color. They've got a lot of rich, bold colors in their branding, and we definitely wanted to highlight that. So, and I definitely want to talk about the conference room. They have a custom
table. The table is
custom
very
table
cool.
that, you know, again, I have to shout out South Loft Craft Creatives. They are so awesome. Just Colby and his team, they did an amazing job. They do a ton of the tables that you see at like quite a few restaurants. I think it's like 60 Vines. And
oh, nice.
They did
Beautiful
a Wolfgang
space.
Puck restaurant. They're just really, really amazing. And so going through the process of, we custom designed this conference table. We made it something that was sleek and interesting. You know, I had a lot of really fun metal pieces that were in the conference room already through the lighting. So I was like, let's just like do some cool inlays of like brass and stuff, but let's do it in a design. And, you know, I feel like Ray and Grant, their eyes just kind of glazed over, because they were like, you want to do what? Like, what are you talking about? We don't care.
It's hard to see the vision when you're not a creative. But I love that. And maybe just because Ray and Grant are just great people, and you're married to one of them, but they sounds like they really kind of let you give this space, you know, the due it deserved. I wonder how other lawyers might be in terms of like allowing you to just kind of take control of the space.
It actually, so working on their office, it turned into working with Rachel Kerala and doing her whole home. She has a beautiful home in North Dallas, and so she was gutting the entire space.
That's fun.
And she had started the project, and I was in the office one day, and she was just so stressed out. And my husband was like, Rachel, have you talked to Stephané about your project? Like, what are you doing? You're like, you know, stressed out, trying to make all these decisions, and decision fatigue is a huge thing for clients, especially when you're doing new construction or renovations, every single thing has to be chosen. So she had not thought to hire a designer and basically was looking at design build firms, which are typically great, but a lot of the decision making, they were putting it on her. And so she got really stressed out. So
that's really hard, right? I mean, being able to like look at swatches and slabs and think, oh, does this go together? Does that go together?
Yes.
It's hard,
And even, I mean, for her, it was even just, she had gutted her whole kitchen. And so she was like, how do I lay out the cabinets? Where do I put the appliances? What do I do? And I just basically walked the space with her. And I was like, look, you know my process. You've seen it with this project. If you want to trust me with your house, which I think is one of the most like intimate spaces to design for a client, then, you know, I'm here to help you. And so we've done that, and it's in construction right now. It's looking amazing. I'm actually really excited for.
She's such a beautiful person and lawyer.
Amazing.
She deserves a beautiful space for sure.
She does. And she has a like glamorous aesthetic, as I like to call it. And so when we did our initial designs, I was like, okay, so your living room is going to be a mixture of like, you know, 50s smoking lounge with a femininity that's also like a little dramatic. And she's like, what do these words mean? And then I showed her the image and she was like, oh, okay, I get it. So, you know, if that sounds like your aesthetic, call 214-494-1515.
Well, so it sounds like building relationships is kind of really the most important part of starting this business. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you know, what you said. You weren't doing something that aligned with your heart before, and now do you feel like you are? And how is it that you are able to kind of fulfill that?
I do. I feel like stressors aside, because I think we all understand that with owning a business, I wake up every single day knowing that I'm walking in my purpose. I'm walking in a gifting that I have. And when my team and I, even when we have difficult days, we still are excited to do what we do. And that's when I knew, okay, yeah, this is worth it. This is worth fighting for. This is worth, you know, figuring it out. It's like any marriage. You know, if you really love that person, and I really love what I'm doing, and I really love my husband, but I really love what I'm doing, and I know that it's worth fighting for. I know that taking this risk has been one of the most frightening and exciting things that I've ever done. And I knew I would own a business at some point, but due to the circumstances that came about, I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly. And I always thought I'd be 40 plus. And I'm saying that as a 35-year-old woman, but I thought I had 5 more years to just kind of work it out, figure out what I want to do, what does it look like, and have a fully formed, you know, process and idea.
But you took that leap.
I took the leap. Yeah. And the Virgo in me does not like that, because I like control and order and things to go exactly the way they're supposed to go. And there has been a little bit of like fun chaos in learning how to be a designer, be a boss, be a designer of residential projects as well as commercial projects, because I only did commercial before, and the residential side of our business has just grown very organically. And so it's a different type of clientele. And then also taxes and accounting and HR and, you know, insurance. And so there's just been all these other factors that have pushed me to be a better me.
Yeah. Well, you know, they always say if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. We've all heard that. But what I really hear you saying is when you love what you're doing, your work product shows, and the success really flows from that when you can tell that you're passionate about what you're doing and that you really enjoy it.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines, I just wanted to, what kind of advice would you give somebody that is kind of where you are, is, you know, thinking about it, is thinking, you know, maybe I want to go out on my own, but I'm terrified. I mean, what kind of advice would you give that person?
So I'm thinking about, that's actually pretty fresh on my mind, because Ariana and I have actually had these conversations with close friends who are thinking about doing their own thing. And I would just say, you know, there are a lot of things that could make you feel like you can't do it. But if you trust yourself, if you're partnering with someone, if you trust your partner, you have good communication, and you really value yourself and find the right clients for your business and your services, then the sky's the limit, because it's not about being the next Joanna Gaines. It's about being the next you, whatever that looks like. And
it's so good. Stephané Boston, thank you so much for being with us here today. You've given us some great advice from a young entrepreneur, really killing it, right? Surround yourself with good people. Keep learning. Don't treat your business like a hobby.
Yes.
That's great advice, right?
I can't take that. I heard that from someone else.
No, that's great advice. So much good stuff. Thank you for being such a great designer and such a great friend, and for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Join us next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in lawn business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.